So I used to be really averse to having my friends and my family meet. Also having my friends and my other friends meet. Basically, at any point where I had the opportunity to have two groups collide, to have two different sections of my life overlap, to basically build any connections within my life, I'd be really scared to do it. Like, I really didn't want it to happen. And I don't think this is all that uncommon. I've heard from a lot of people that they do this too. I actually know a lot of people who still do it. And right off the bat, I mean, if you want to do that, that's fine, that's your prerogative. I learned, for me, that it was a really, not necessarily a bad thing, but kind of a limiting mindset in a lot of ways, if you will, and I don't know where I heard this quote. I really wish I could, source it for you all. I'd like to try and do that, but it was when I heard the phrase, you gotta make your life into a house, not an apartment complex. And basically, this is a way of saying, don't compartmentalize your life too much. And it really changed my perspective on things because I was fully compartmentalizing my life. I wanted to go to school, and I wanted to see a bunch of friends, and I wanted to know I'd go home after, and I would see my parents, and then I'd see, other friends maybe that I had out of school, and then I'd FaceTime one friend that I want to FaceTime and only talk to him about the people he knows and the things that we do together. I wanted to make things a very, just that, a compartmentalized existence, if you will. I think that's a little bit of a high and mighty way to put it, but hey, we're here. And for a while, this worked. I mean, obviously it worked. Realistically, it never would have stopped working, I don't think. I think I could probably live like that forever and be just fine. But I kind of realized that I was missing out on so much, and here's why. Growing up, I saw kind of the other side of this, right? My brother would always have his friends around the house. My parents knew all of his friends by name, they knew some of their families, and all that, right? And, I always liked the fact that my brother's friends, we could talk about them around the dinner table. And I was like, oh, this is a compartment of my life, right? That my brother's friends are also just as much part of my family. And then I was like, one day, I was like, wait, I'd like to be able to talk about some of my friends around the dinner table too. And that was definitely a part of it. That was a relatively small part. I think a big part of it, I think it came kind of when I started, after high school, when I started losing a bunch of friends actually. You know how that kind of happens. Not losing as in having falling outs, but just losing touch with people. I think that's when it really came to me in spades, because at that point, I was like, almost taking a quality over quantity approach to my relationships, right? And this did what I think is a cool thing. At the very least, it was at least like a good thing in the long run. And saying, I've always wanted to kind of I always wished I could talk about my friends around the dinner table and, have this relationship, but I never knew how to build it. It was always like, I'm sure we all have these things in our life, whether it's relationship-wise, whether it's, professionally, artistically, in any regard that it could be, where it's like, I want to do this thing. I don't really know how to go about that, though. And it was kind of always that for me, right? It was like, why is it that this guy, my brother here, gets to do this? Why is it that he gets to have all these friends that my parents know and love, but when it comes to me, I don't really bring friends around? And how do I bridge that gap, right? And especially, it's not like I can go to my brother and ask it, because he was just, doing it because he was just bringing friends around. And for some reason, I just didn't have that spirit in me, is how I looked at it. But then as I kind of lessened the number of friends I had, and I started looking at my surroundings and being like, oh, I really appreciate these people. Why, if I know these guys, you lose half your friends and you go, okay, so these are the ones who are here for the long run. These are the friends that I actually really like and want to keep around. And I think it kind of forced me to ask the question of well, if I know that my friends are going to be here for the long run, and I've always known my family will be, because that's the whole thing about family, right? Why wouldn't I just combine these two? There's so much more there, you know? If my friends are great, if my family is great, why wouldn't I have them just like meet, right? And this is where it started, right? Just in very small social interactions of like, you know, why not kind of thing. Bringing a friend around to a family function if I could, bringing family around when my friends were around if I could, you know, super simple stuff, right? And eventually I came around to the realization of like, this is so great, you know, this is working really well. Why don't I do this with the rest of my life? You know, why don't I stop compartmentalizing everything? A big part of this was the fact that like, you know, when you're younger, everything's embarrassing for some reason. If you're watching this video right now in high school, or even like you're just starting college, maybe you're in that weird, you know, in between phase, like everything's so embarrassing right now for some like no reason. And I'm not trying to do the thing. I would often get lectured by adults when I was that age of like, no, just like do it. You're gonna regret not doing it. You're gonna regret not caring. I like, listen, you know, if you don't want to get bullied, I'm not gonna tell you to go do it. But like, there is an extent where it's like, oh, I don't have to be embarrassed about everything, you know? Showing my interests off to the people around me will actually probably like benefit me more. And a big place for this was YouTube. You know, whenever I did YouTube in high school, I didn't do it on any of the channels I have now. These are more recent ones that I've started. But whenever I do it on my old channels, I'd like hide it. Like I thought it was like a double life I had. And like being totally honest, like that was kind of sick. Like I wouldn't mind doing that again. But you know, after the 10th time of your friends being like, oh, can you hang out tonight? And you're like, no, I don't want to. Instead of just telling them you want to finish your video because you do YouTube as a hobby, like you're just being a weirdo. Like just, you know, tell them what you're actually doing, I think. And you know, having that benefit really did open up a lot for me, I think, of just like, oh, I could totally just like have my friends know about this. And some of them will think it's cool. Some of them are gonna be like, this is really goofy, but like, that's cool too, you know? Like having your friends watch your stuff is really cool. And then they can give you advice on it. And even like, you know, shout out to, I don't know if she wants me to say her name, but like, I have this one friend who knows about my YouTube, and like, I know when I have a good video when she tells me about it, when she's like, oh, I watched that, yeah. That's how I know I actually did something good. That's awesome, that's great. And that's like something genuinely useful to know, to have someone in real life who watches your stuff. Also, if you're making stuff, you're like, I don't want anyone in real life to know about this, and you're like that embarrassed about it, why are you making it if you're that scared of it? Maybe there's a valid reason, but like, I just think, you know, do things that you're okay bringing to everyone. And having this approach to life, I think, is genuinely like multiple times more free than not, because letting everything overlap allows you, and this is a bit of an exaggeration, like I'm definitely putting this in kind of I feel like I'm overusing high and mighty today, but high and mighty terms, but like letting everything overlap allows you to be more of a complete person. Because when you go and you can go meet up with your friend and they'll be like, oh, how's your family? And like genuinely have a conversation about not just the part of your life that they're privy to, but your entire life. When they can really talk to you about like, how's your family? You know, what's going on with this? You know, are you still doing YouTube? Oh, that's great that you enjoy doing that still. You know what I mean? Like when you can do all these things, it really does allow you to be so much more of a complete person than when it's like you meet up with that friend and it's like, oh, how is the group that we haven't hung out with together in a year? You know, oh, you haven't talked to them either? And then it's like, well, now we don't have anything to talk about because they don't know about, you know, they don't know my complete life. They don't really know who I am. They just know the part of me that I allowed them to see. And I feel like, you know, it takes a degree of, bravery is such a big word, but I guess a degree of bravery. You know, just because like you don't always want to tell everyone everything. You don't always want to show your complete self to all the people around you. My answer to that's a little bit cutthroat. I say if you don't want to show your complete self to somebody, why show them any of you? You know what I mean? Like only keep the people around who you think are super high quality people. that you really appreciate. That's my answer to that. But I get some people are like, no, I want to have a group of friends that I can just go hang out with and not have to worry about, anything else. I get that. But when you do have those friends who you show your complete self to, who know about your family, who know about all your relationships, there's a lot in that. There's a lot in that to be gained. And it allows you to just strengthen everything so much more. And when you're going around being a complete person all the time, you get to be yourself 10 times more than when you're not being a complete person. And I think that that's a good thing. So yeah, that was just a little conversation about that. All just about that one quote that I heard, which I'm gonna probably title this, which I brought it up again now because I want to see if when you say something the rest comes to, I want to see if I can remember the guy who said it. I don't remember the guy who said it. So it was me, I'll steal it. Yeah, that's a Max Dice original quote. Build your life as a home, not an apartment complex. Yeah, you heard it here first. Seriously though, if you know the source of that quote, please comment down below. This is the painting. It's an apple. I've been wanting to paint an apple because back in the day when you learned to paint, they would make you do these fruit baskets. I'm not doing all that, but I'll do an apple because I should. It actually, solid apple, I'll say. But yeah, go check this out over on the Instagram. Also, big thing. I mentioned it yesterday, but it's still a big thing. I got a Piccolo action figure yesterday. It'll be up on the Instagram. You should all check that out. It's more important than anything going on here. It really is. So definitely check out my Piccolo action figure. And let me know if you want more action figure content on my Instagram story. And until tomorrow, guys, gals, and pals, this has been Paint and Talk episode 45. I'm here every morning painting and talking with you all.